Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 32nd NRTC annual meeting for our electric members. I'm Jeff Wilson, CEO and General Manager of West Carolina Rural Telephone Cooperative in Abbeville, South Carolina, and Chairman of the NRTC Board of Directors. Now please rise for our national anthem and remain standing for the invocation delivered by NRTC Board Vice Chairman Shannon Clark.
Please join me in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you today to ask for your blessing on the business of NRTC. And while for a short time today our focus will be on serving our members, help us to never forget that our main goal in this life is to serve you and accomplish your will, so that each of us can live with you for eternity. Lord, as your children, we know that we often fail, but we also find comfort in knowing that you are a good and loving God that seeks the best for his children. We come to you today to ask for your guidance and leading as we speak as leaders in our industry. Will you help us to be a servant to our friends and families and our neighbors, especially in this world of technology and the type of business that NRTC is involved with? But Lord, would you also help us to integrate our daily task with our responsibility to serve you? Finally, Father, we ask for your protection. Please protect those that protect us. Protect their families and keep them from harm. And above all, let us thank you for your wisdom, your guidance, and your protection. We pray these things in your Son's name, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Shannon. In accordance with NRTC's bylaws, NRT staff duly notified all members about this annual meeting. I declare that we have a quorum of the membership. Prior to this meeting, you received minutes from last year's annual meeting. I move to approve the minutes as written by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Here's a quick review of today's agenda. Tim Bryan's CEO report will review the latest technology directions NRTC has taken to serve all the technology needs for rural co-ops and give us some insight into NRTC's current and financial situation. After Tim's remarks, guest speaker Brett Culp follows. Mr. Culp is a filmmaker who has made powerful documentaries about heroes, the type of heroes you might recognize in day-to-day life in your communities. To finish this session, NRTC General Counsel Chuck Devone will conduct the board elections. This year we have incumbents standing unopposed for re-election to Districts 2, 5, and 7. NRTC earlier emailed background on all the nominees. I hope you all have a chance to review that information And now I'd like to introduce the NRTC Board of Directors. I ask that each board member come on stage as I call your name, and please hold your applause until I have called everyone by name. Shannon Clark of Wisconsin is the Vice Chairman of the NRTC Board of Directors and represents District 5. Tim Mergen of Minnesota is Secretary-Treasurer and represents District 6. Mike Melandro of Virginia represents District 1. David Pierce of Georgia, District 2. George Kitchens of Alabama, District 3. Bob Hance of Michigan, District 4. Dale Short of Kansas, District 7. Lynn Hodges of Missouri, District 8. Chris Sewert of Oregon, District 9. And Brian Lightfoot, Texas, District 10. NRECA CEO Jim Matheson and CFC Governor and CEO Sheldon Peterson represent District 11. NRCA and CFC are NRTC's founding organizations. And in District 12, board members representing NRTC's telco members, Jason Dandridge of South Carolina, Raymond Hennigan of Missouri, and Jimmy Todd of Kansas. Shirley Bloomfield, CEO of NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, who serves District 13 on behalf of the rural telcos, could not be with us today. These board members work hard on NRTC's members' behalf. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, gentlemen. Providing technology solutions to rural areas is a team effort. It is vitally important that businesses, local governments, and others in our communities work together to meet our technology goals. The same dynamic is evident on the NRTC board. As a telco board member, I appreciate the contributions and the sense of collaboration with our fellow board members from the electric cooperative world. As you'll hear in a moment, our industries are converging in many ways. Electric cooperatives are building, maintaining, and expanding modern communication networks to support advanced grid applications, distributed energy and connected home technologies, and that your members are demanding. Telcos take great pride in the telecommunications and broadband networks that they've built over the many years to facilitate the communications and economic development in the communities we call home. By working together, we can learn from each other and continue to expand those vital services in the communities where they're still lacking. NRTC is in such a unique position to lead this effort. I'm excited about where NRTC is positioned today and where the organization is headed on behalf of its members. Tim Bryan has been NRTC CEO since 2011 and over the years has successfully expanded the scope of NRTC technology and services. Today, NRTC is very well positioned to provide its members all the tools needed to introduce and grow broadband and smart grid technologies in rural America. Tim, I'm always interested in hearing your take on where we are and what comes next. Now, I'm pleased to introduce Tim Bryan. Come on up.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to step away from the podium here. Thank you all very much for coming. It's not as if 83-degree weather would keep you away from our meeting today. I know the weather in the Midwest and the upper Midwest, even in Virginia, it's been a pretty rough winter, so this is a welcome respite. I can't help but reflect. I'm here in Orlando, and I have to just recount a very short story. A young man came down to the Villages, which is a retirement community here near Orlando, to see his grandmother. And his grandmother was so excited that he came. She said, "Jump in the car. I'm going to take you around. I want to introduce you to all of my friends." And so they jumped in the car, and off she went. And they're driving down the road, and they come up to an intersection, and the light is solid red. Solid red. She just blows right through it. No looking, no nothing. And the grandson kind of tenses up, feeling almost certain he's going to get hit, and miraculously they don't get hit. They get through the intersection, they're doing okay. And he looks over and he doesn't want to say anything, doesn't want to upset her, so they just keep going. They come up to another intersection, the light is solid red, and she just blows right through the second light. And he tenses again, thinking for sure he's going to get hit. He doesn't. And he says, Nana, he said, you just drove through 2 red lights. And she said, oh my goodness, am I driving? So, little story about Orlando. We're going to talk about technology today. We're going to talk about technology not just for electrics, but technology in general. And what better way to start a speech about technology is to talk about all the people who made predictions in the past and ended up looking foolish. How about this one? This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. This from the head of Western Union. Maybe this one, fooling around with AC is just a waste of time. Nobody will use it ever. Thomas Edison. Television won't be able to hold on to any market it captures after the first 6 months. Darryl Zanuck, head of 20th Century Fox. A little bit more recent, Steve Chen, the founder of YouTube, expressing concerns about his company's long-term viability. There's just not that many videos I want to watch. You'll be interested to know 15% of internet traffic is Netflix, 12% is YouTube. They're the second largest consumer of internet traffic in the world. Just not that many videos I want to watch. The best one is for last, Steve Ballmer. There is no chance the iPhone is going to get any significant market share. So, what I'm going to do today is, sort of as we weave our way through this presentation, I might have a couple sayings thrown in there that we've heard over the past several years at NRTC, some about broadband networks, some about electric networks and AMI networks, and I'll sort of weave it in as to how it plays out now versus what some of these folks said. But listen, anybody who talks about technology, everybody has a Netflix example. Everybody. I guarantee you go to any one of these sessions, someone's going to talk about Netflix, so I'm going to do it too, because I want to be on the same bandwagon. Here's what we're going to do this morning, or this afternoon. We're going to download one Office episode. You guys know what The Office is. We're going to download one Office episode, and we're going to do it at the speed that's generally available in suburban and urban America, 100 megabits, and we're done. And we're ready to go. We can take our laptop, our phone to the airport, and we got an episode of The Office. Now we're going to do it where you live. And it's going to take just a little bit longer. And this is actually at a speed that's probably a little higher than most of you can get in rural America, but we're going to take our time and we're going to just go ahead and let it load. And you have time now to check your messages if you'd like, visit with your neighbor. We're going to have a little bit of extra time because this is just one episode of The Office. There's about 200 of them, and The Office represents less than 1% of the content that you can get on Netflix anyhow. So if you take this and multiply it by 100 or 1,000 or whatever number you want to multiply it by, you're going to spend a lot of time watching this circle go round on your computer. And I'm going to force you all to watch it at least until it finishes up here on stage. Because ultimately, what we're going to talk about today is network speed, throughput, capacity. It's called by a lot of different measures, but now our Office episode is finally downloaded at 8 megabits, which once again is probably greater than a lot of the DSL capacity that's out there in rural America. Well, let's take it a step further. Anybody have an Apple computer, a Mac, laptop, computer? Guess what? They have a new operating system. It's called Sierra. It's pretty slick. It's really nice. So now, what we're going to do is we need this new operating system on our Mac in order to get the latest security updates, in order for it to be work with all the other programs. And we're going to do this at 2 megabits because that could be, frankly, the speed that's available in some places in rural America. And then we're going to do it again at 100 megabits. Now, I'm not going to make you sit through the 2 megabit thing because we're going to start this at 7 in the morning, and with a little bit of luck, we'll be wrapped up by 5. That means your computer, your network, out of service for a day, and that's if it works the first time. If for some reason it gets snagged or doesn't work, you get to do it all again the next day. Now we're going to do it at 100 megabits. We're going to start at 7 in the morning, and at 7:08, before your Pop-Tarts come out of the toaster, you're done. So throughput, speed, capacity, once again, whatever you want to call it, it's the lifeblood of any network. I guarantee you almost everybody in this room knows what throughput their high-speed or their low-speed internet connection is at their house. This is all anybody talks about. Look, blazing fast internet. Faster internet speeds are in your future. Faster, better. Your neighborhood's gone high speed. Crazy fast internet. Throughput and speed is what makes a network valuable. But you might not be hearing that in your neck of the woods. This is my address at my farm in Central Virginia. This is, if you put your address in the CenturyLink website, who serves this territory, this is the message that I got. This is unfortunate, but there's no bandwidth at the moment to provide high-speed internet at your address. This is a temporary condition, so feel free to check back with us. I purchased that farm in 2003. So 16 years for CenturyLink is a temporary condition. But we're going to talk about that a little bit later, about access to broadband. Now you're probably thinking at some point, are you at the right meeting? Should you be at the NRTC telco meeting, or are you really at the meeting for electric cooperatives? What are we doing talking about all this stuff? So maybe you're thinking about that. But maybe you've heard this prediction. Maybe you've heard somebody say DSL is fine. 2 megabits is fine. I just need to send emails. It's completely fine. You may have heard that prediction, much like some of the predictions we heard earlier. You may have heard the electric version of that. We only need to read meters. That's all we have to do. We only need to read meters. Well, take a look at something. I found this kind of interesting parallel. In 2018, that little sliver is what email represents of internet traffic last year. In the new generation AMI systems, that little sliver is what represents getting a daily meter read from your system. So balancing your requirements for what you want to do with your AMI and your electric networks to making sure you can read a meter is like getting an internet service to make sure you can get email. You're going to miss the whole panoply of services and solutions that can be provided when you get higher throughput. I'm going to take you through another one. I just need to make a phone. I just needed to make a call on my phone. That's all I use a phone for. It's a phone. So just for fun, I'll take a little stroll down memory lane, and I'm old enough to do so because I was around when cellular networks got launched. And let's just go back. Let's just talk about this. All I need to do is make a call on my phone. Let's go back and talk about how wireless networks were built for voice. Anybody remember this? First cellular networks, biggest hill in your town, put up a tower and put a radio on it, and phones work and you can make calls. And that's basically how cellular networks started in order for you to make a telephone call from a mobile device. And if there were enough realtors in that town that one tower got clogged up, you put a second tower in. And that way you could make a few more phone calls, and you could continue to develop your network in this way by splitting sites. But I'm here to tell you, it's not the way it's done anymore. Okay? Now you use your phone for everything. Everything. Whether it's maps, whether it's video, whether it's email, whether it's social media. You use your phone for everything, and networks have to be built differently to enable you to use your device for more things. This is how networks are built now in the cellular industry. Lots and lots and lots of smaller cells, and they're built for data, not for voice. Just by way of example, 5G, everyone in here has heard of 5G and thought about 5G. Literally, some of the larger carriers may deploy 80 to 100,000 additional sites on top of 20 or 30,000 that they have in order to develop a network that's built for data. And where I'm going to draw the comparison so that you're going to be convinced that you're in the right meeting is it's the same way on AMI systems. It's the same thing. AMI systems in the past were built to read meters. And you put up a tower, and it had a big circle around it, and sure enough, you could read the meters. And every now and then, if you had too many meters, you put in another tower. Wireless networks aren't built that way anymore. They're not built to read meters. They're built for data. They're built to accommodate the explosion of data that's going to happen on your network and that you're going to want. So in the space of one tower, you might have 10 or 20 access points, all connected by fiber to your substation or to your back end. You might have relays that connect to the access points. This is a network that's built for data. And you might think, well, these cellular guys, yeah, they're building that. AMI folks, yeah, they're building that. But it's everywhere. Okay? Go to your hotel tonight. That Wi-Fi system that you're on in your hotel, it's a mesh network just like this. I don't care whether it's Ruckus, Cisco, Meraki, doesn't matter. It's the exact same mesh network that's being built in next generation AMI systems. How about in your house? Anybody have the home extenders? Anybody have Eero, Orbi, Google Wi-Fi, any of those kinds of extenders? They're all mesh networks. That's what kind of network is being built these days to accommodate the data demands that your electric network is going to have, maybe not today, but definitely tomorrow. This is why we partnered with Itron. And I want to make sure everyone is clear on where our thinking was and why we do the things we do sometimes. Itron's a big company, lots of R&D, open standards, lots of device selection, but that middle one, best network performance, is what caught our eye. The highest data rates, lowest latency, of course meter reading success is part of it, and best security. I want to talk to you about network performance because that is throughput, capacity, speed, all the things we've been talking about. Take a look here. The Itron network that we deploy has access to 26 times more spectrum than a lot of the tower-based networks, 26 times more spectrum. Then, the mesh network reuses spectrum many multiples of times over in a given footprint. Combine that with better radio algorithms, and the average throughput of a network built like this will easily surpass nearest competitor by 4 to 6 times. And that's important. And of the RFPs and the various things we've answered over the last year, I would say none of them focused on throughput. None of them really asked the hard question, how is this network going to work for me for the next 10 to 15 years? Because I need to do a lot more than read a meter as time rolls forward. And that's essentially what we're focused on, is making sure your network works for you in the future. I'll tell you what, let's switch gears. You remember our Office example, right? We downloaded an episode of The Office. I'll give you an electric example. Now you'll know you're in the right meeting. This is a meter firmware upgrade. Let's say you have a meter profile and you decide you want to change some parameters. Let's say you need a new security firmware update. This is a network that has propagated a firmware upgrade to 50,000 meters overnight. Overnight. Most of them done in 4 hours, all of them done in 8 hours. This meter firmware, over-the-air meter firmware update, for example, in other systems might take weeks or months. Remember our 2 megabit versus 100 megabit example? This is what happens when you deploy it at a large scale. It could literally take months, and it could fail. It could get bogged down and completely fail. This is the electric example of what throughput can do for your network. And nothing is more important than updating the firmware on your meters by way of example. I'll give you another example. The Itron network is deployed at Choptank, provides near real-time load profiling. You add that to a conservation voltage reduction solution, all of a sudden you got 5% energy savings during peak periods. There will be a topic on this at either Tech Advantage or the meeting on Tuesday. But that's another perfectly good example of what throughput can do for you, both monetarily and in managing your system. I'm going I'm going to conclude on this portion of my talk, you're not quite done yet, by saying speed and capacity matter. Network choice is a strategic decision. It really is. It's a 15-year critical asset for your cooperative. Network capacity should be a deciding factor for how you decide which way to go. No one in this room would take DSL over fiber at the same cost if both were available. Nobody would do it. Nobody would do it. And the wireless network that's getting built for electrics is the same development path as everybody. It's the same thing. It's the same technology. If it works for cellular, if it works in the hotel, if it works in your home, it's going to get deployed in the electric world. All right, I'm going to switch gears. You're going to laugh at this picture. So, that is actually me. It's hard to believe, and some of you may wonder, now why would I put this picture up? Is it to convince you that 20 years ago, and that picture is 20 years old, 20 years ago I was involved in the fiber and broadband business in Europe, where we built some of the first fiber and broadband networks anywhere in the world. And that picture is from that annual report in 1999. Some of you may think that. Some of you may think it's for me to remind myself what I look like 20 pounds lighter and with brown hair. I'm not sure which it is. It's probably a little bit of both. But let's talk a little bit about fiber and broadband. Your service area is likely to lack access to true broadband. A combination of NRECA and FCC data superimposed on the electric co-op service areas. There's a lot of territory out there that is unserved or underserved for broadband access, and I don't think I need to make that point too stridently. I think most people know that. We know how to fix that. We have 120 employees right now at NRTC devoted to nothing but broadband and fiber for electric cooperatives. We've done 22 projects, 25,000 miles of plant, 260,000 homes, $750 million in investment, 70 feasibility studies. We have 30 in the works right now, 16 of which rolled over from 18 to 19. So this is a huge emphasis and a really important area for NRTC to work with members to do what's best for them. And what's best for members? Well, it really can vary. One size does not fit all. What your neighbor does, or what they do in the state next to you, or what they do across the country, maybe will be what you do, or maybe it won't be. There's all kinds of ways you can go with this. We've done a 5-mile project to connect a couple of substations. And that, by the way, is Jerry. We've done hybrid, fiber, and wireless broadband. We've done just backbone-only builds. We've done backbone builds where, for example, you just go off in a couple of areas and do some fiber to the home or wireless to test the market. That, of course, is Jerry. Anybody know who's coming next? Remember this cartoon? Spike. We've done very large 3,000-mile projects to provide full fiber broadband to a service territory. The point I'm trying to get with my cartoon characters is each one of your projects will be different. You should look at your project, look at the feasibility of your project in a microcosm of itself, as opposed to trying to figure out what everybody else is doing. And one of the things we think we do best at NRTC is tailor a feasibility study for what you're looking for. And out of our 100 feasibility studies, we've had a number that have come back where we had to give the cooperative the advice that it was not feasible to do perhaps what they wanted to do, or what they would have liked to do to provide broadband. So you have to be able to provide honest advice, and I'm very happy that in our last survey, 85% of our members believe we put their interests ahead of our own. And that helps us when we deliver the feasibility study. Let me tell you something else. Technology is a great thing, and rural broadband networks benefit if you look at multiple technologies. I'm going to show this to you in a nice picture, and then I'm going to show it to you with a whole bunch of numbers. I hope there's a couple finance people in the audience. I think you're going to like a couple slides. This is a picture of a service territory, and as you can see, the part on the left is pretty close to the town in this service territory, and then you move a little further out, and then you move a little further out. So what do? You take a look at these different service territories, and you figure out, in that one on the left, we can do fiber to the home. Their density is there, the demographics are there, and fiber to the home is a good economic decision. For part of that territory where fiber to the home is likely too expensive, we can do a very high quality fixed wireless offering. We're going to talk about what high quality means. And in some places where even that's too difficult to serve, you still have satellite broadband to pick up the odd house or two, hopefully, until you can get fixed wireless or fiber out there. It's a reservation, let's say, for your ability to continue to do business with your member who lives far outside your service territory. Wireless broadband has come of age. I know many of you have experience with fixed wireless, and it's not good experience, but the new generation of fixed wireless, taking advantage of new technologies, easily supports plans up to 100 megabits. Remember in our example, 100 megabits was what we used as the really fast connection. These are actual deployment photos of what's going up. This on the left are the towers. On the right is the antenna that's about half the size of a DirecTV dish that goes on the house in order to receive service. Let me give you an example where we're building this. We thought we'd offer a 25 megabit service, 50 megabit service, and 100 megabit service. We figured, depending on distance and a variety of other things, some number of subscribers would be able to get all of those or some of those. Turns out 90% of the subscribers in this region can get 100 megabit service from this fixed wireless offering. The second interesting thing on the wireless side is this fiber to the curb or wireless drop. Imagine this. Let's say you bring fiber into a neighborhood, but you have to dig the streets, go through the flower beds, go underneath streets. Maybe there's a lot of rock, tear up people's yards, and it's expensive, and it's disruptive. Now, there's a way to get a gigabit connection to the home using wireless. So in places where the cost or the terrain is too difficult, you can get your final mile drop by using wireless instead of fiber. Okay, I wish I had a pointer for this because there's a lot of stuff on this screen. I know that. But take a look on the far left side for me. This is an actual NRTC member, and these are the number of linear homes per mile by substation for this member. If you look on the left, you find that they have some areas that are in pretty suburban locations. 40 homes a mile, it's pretty good, right? 20, 25. But then you look on the far right and you see their service territory extends pretty far out in the country. They have a number of substations with 1 home per mile. And so what this graph is trying to show you is what happens if you were to go with a hybrid network choice as opposed to just one or the other. If you look once again, look on the far left side, see where that blue line is? If you built this all fixed wireless, you could build this for under $50 million, whole network. And if you wanted to build this network 100% with fiber, look on the far right, see where the blue line hits there? $225 million. What the most likely way this will develop is about 80 to 90% of members will receive fiber to the home. See that little arrow there? And the last 10 to 20% will receive fixed wireless access, 100 megabit service, because the difference in that plan and the all fiber plan is $90 million. It's the difference in making a plan feasible and making it unfeasible. So consider different technologies when you look at your plan and figure out what works for you and what's feasible for you. As Jeff said, our telco directors here know this, and a number of electrics are beginning to know this. Broadband deployment entails a number of tasks. A lot of tasks that you may not be familiar with. There's internal resources, there's the cooperative organization communities, there's partners and vendors, planning. Feasibility is by far the most important thing you can do. Get a good feasibility study, look at all your options. Design and build, mapping, construction management, just network equipment. We work with nationwide vendors, for example, on warehousing and fulfillment, being able to order, take things back, send things around. Integration with all of your systems, NISC, SCDC, other systems of record. Operations, all the stuff you have to do on the back end to run an ISP. We're going to talk about that coming up in just a few minutes. There's a lot going on here when you deploy broadband in rural America. And one way you can do it, and Jeff referred to it, There's a great number of examples of telco-electric partnerships. Just a couple days ago, North Carolina announced NCMC and a telco, I think River Street, are joining together to figure out how they might be able to deploy broadband together in North Carolina. But in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Oregon, New York, Arkansas, Alabama, South Carolina, Indiana, Tennessee, Georgia, your local telephone cooperative might be a great resource for you as you think about deploying broadband. So those are my two big topics, AMI networks and broadband networks. I'm going to hit just a few other things that we do, and then the real speaker can come up, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy Brett, a wonderful filmmaker. But we do a lot more than AMI and broadband. Let's just go through it. We mentioned how we support ISPs, both for telephones and electrics now. NOC monitoring, Network Operations Center monitoring. How about this? 41,000 tickets handled last year. Help desk. How about this one? 8 million minutes of support for your members. This is support for your members. When they call in, my Wi-Fi doesn't work, my phone doesn't work, my router doesn't work, my internet doesn't work. We frequently take the calls and help sort out how to help your members, all with call centers in the United States. Security. 913 DDoS alarms, 55 risk assessments performed for our members. Email. This is the most amazing thing, email. 6 million daily average emails delivered, 31 million emails prevented from being delivered, caught in spam filters. So 5 times the amount of emails you get are being stopped at the border by companies like ours to make sure your mailboxes don't fill up with junk. 5 times. It's unbelievable. I'll tell you a little bit about wireless. Obviously, we talked about wireless earlier in the presentation, but we've been in the wireless business for 12 years. We are the second or third largest wholesale customer of the largest wireless network in the nation. And we have extensive experience on 3G, 4G, 4G LTE, and supporting members so that they can operate wireless services to their end members. There's lots more going on in wireless. Internet of Things you've heard about. 5G. CBRS is a new spectrum band that's going to be opened up. So being in the middle of the wireless arena is helpful for our electrics and our telcos. But here's something I want to announce today. Here's something we can do. Here's a way to make a Reese's peanut butter cup out of chocolate and peanut butter. We have a long-term relationship, nation's largest wireless provider, and we already have IoT arrangements in place to support any LTE device that hits that network. Itron, for example, makes meters and modules and LTE modules. As a consequence, combined, NRTC can offer members a completely infrastructure-free build-out for AMI if that's what works for them. In some cases it will, in some cases it won't. But the bottom line is we can look at cooperatives and provide an infrastructure-free metering solution on a 4G LTE network using our existing wireless arrangements. I want to talk just a little bit more on a few things that are equally important, particularly around sort of next generation kind of services that electrics are increasingly demanding. Demand management. On the consumer side, Nest thermostats. We've seen a huge uptake in cooperatives who want to do demand management by just moving the thermostat, using a program between Nest and the cooperatives that the cooperatives control. Cooperative set can determine their peak times, turn the thermostats, do a little pre-cooling, turn them up, and then turn them back down when the peak event passes. Demand management, larger loads. There's a lot of interruptible power supply rates out there, and one way you might be able to get a benefit of that is to put in generating capacity, just a generator, take advantage of the interruptible rate, run your generator when the power is interrupted, and generally pay for these projects in 1 to 2 years. Predictive analytics, using software to predict a wide variety of things. Energy efficient, conservation voltage reduction, volt-var, DVR, all things that your next generation system can easily manage and its data demands can easily manage when you deploy AMI. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about solar and energy storage. We've done hundreds of megawatts of solar around the nation. And we did, as far as I know, the largest cooperative energy storage facility, our partner Engie, in Colorado, to provide for battery backup. I think it's 16 megawatt hours in Colorado. So a lot going on in next generation energy around solar and storage. Storage in particular going to become a much more interesting issue as prices continue to decline for battery storage. Well, I'm almost at the end. I'm going to wrap up with the most boring parts of the presentation, our results. In 2018, we did about $141 million of revenue, just under $30 million of gross margin, and about $4.5 million of cash net income. As always, we have a pretty good-looking balance sheet with no debt and cash and investment securities of $152 million. In 2019, our budget is to do about $180 million of revenue, $35 million in gross margin, cash net income of around $5 million. It's mostly as we expand our services in broadband, we want to make sure that all of the benefit we can give members, particularly in terms of purchasing power arrangements, are passed through to members. We're not looking to make our own bottom line. We're looking to make your bottom line. And as a consequence, we've settled on a plan that produces $5 million of net income for 2019 with a similar balance sheet. I know everyone, the next question is going to be, what about patronage? We've paid patronage for many years, as you can see. In our board meeting yesterday, our board did pass a resolution to pay current year patronage this year, as well as to retire patronage. However, since our audited results are not quite in, they'll be done around March 31st, I'm not going to give you the number, but how about if I just tell you that the bar will be very similar to the 2014 through 2016 bar. It's going to look pretty similar to what we've done in the past and what you've come to expect from NRTC when it comes to managing your equity, and the retirement of your equity. Right now, we've retired all patronage through 2003, and we have a 1 year, 2011, where we paid out all current year patronage. So we only have about 10 years of patronage outstanding, and our goal is to return it to you in equilibrium with the goals we're trying to achieve in serving members currently. And we appreciate your continued interest in NRTC and our patronage policies. I'm going to put this down. You know that's good news. Means I'm almost done. I really appreciate everybody coming out today. I really appreciate everyone's support for NRTC, the support I personally have from the board, the support of our management team who've done a lot of work to get us in position. I'm the person telling you, but the people who are actually doing it are the NRTC staff, many of whom are here today. So I thank them, I thank the board, and most importantly, I thank all of our members for being at our annual meeting. Thanks very much.
We've now reached the business portion of the meeting. I ask, is there any new business or unfinished business? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the board elections. In accordance with board policy and consistent with Robert's rules, I now turn the chair over to NRTC General Counsel Chuck Devone to conduct the elections. After the elections, Chuck will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Jeff, and good afternoon to all. Before presenting the candidates for today's election, I ask NRTC Board Secretary Treasurer Tim Mergen to certify the slate.
Thank you, Chuck. It is my duty to inform you that the slate of candidates nominated for 3 seats on NRTC's Board of Directors have been presented by the NRTC Nominating Committee and have been approved in accordance with the bylaws of NRTC.
Thanks, Tim. There are candidates standing for election in Districts 2, 5, and 7 this year. NRTC's bylaws do not allow for write-ins or nominations from the floor. The candidate in District 2 is David Pierce, Director of Amicalola Electric Membership Corporation in Jasper, Georgia. The candidate in District 5 is Shannon Clark, CEO and General Manager of Richland Electric Cooperative in Richland Center, Wisconsin. And the candidate in District 7 is Dale Short, CEO and General Manager of Butler Electric Cooperative in El Dorado, Kansas. According to Article 4, Section 5E of NRTC's bylaws, when a candidate runs unopposed, in order to facilitate the conduct of the annual meeting, the chair may call for elections by unanimous consent or voice vote, and that is the situation this year. Without objection, I therefore call for the election of Mr. Pierce, Mr. Clark, and Mr. Short. Are there any objections? Hearing no objections, Mr. Pierce, Mr. Clark, and Mr. Short are elected to the NRTC board. Congratulations. On behalf of the board of directors and your NRTC staff, thank you for your membership in NRTC and thank you for your attendance here today. This meeting is adjourned.